like, do you remember King Kong versus, you know, King Kong and Skull Mountain? I woke up to like these huge alien looking, like, it looked like meteorites all around me. Just woke up because I had to get up and drive early. And I'm looking at meteorites. Like, it looked like Skull Mountain. Even with the pictures, you can't even imagine waking up and seeing these huge, like, megathons of huge, like, meteorites. It's nothing I've ever seen. And they're in all these weird positions that you know that this is not natural. This is not natural from this terrain. This is extraterrestrial. It is otherworldly. I've never seen anything like it. And I'm waking up, and this is what I was driving in. And you didn't even know. Okay? And this is the beauty of seeing something geometrical that your eyes haven't ever laid on. And I feel that the reason why I was triggered to drive is because I had to be literally woken up genetically. Because remember, my people come from there, and I'm in contact with aliens. Many of you know the beings that I'm in contact with there. Bonjour, bonjour. Comment ça va? Ça va très bien et tout. Je parle français. Lali. That's pretty. Très joli. So I'm being triggered by seeing geometrical shapes I've never seen before. They're off-worldly. So now my geometrical structures in my body are being triggered by this sight. And every place that I drove on this beautiful ride from Sao Paulo to Bahia was triggering a codon, my flux capacitor to literally open and start to work. Now I'm gonna tell you what that means in a minute. But what I mentioned with the flux capacitor, again, if you don't know what that is, watch. Again, I'm gonna explain what it is, but it's a form of technology that allows you to travel through dimensions, through densities, and through time. Time is a false construct. It's artificial. Our only concept of time is through physicality. Okay, physical things. Okay. And as I'm going through this terrain, I'm starting to experience forms of manifestation and thought that literally only need to be spoken and come into reality. Yes, my loves. You know, when they'd be like, oh, the secret, you just have to pretend like you want to be in the secret, and the secret is not a secret, and you just have to pretend and put vision boards, and you got to do all this cool stuff, and you got to pretend like you're in it to win it. My flux capacitor, the technology in my biosphere, my body, my XX, turned on, which allowed me to think thoughts come into reality. Remember, like, what was it? What was the Leva Genie was like this, right? She went like this. The Bewitched. Remember, she went da-da-da-da-da? Okay? Literally within that moment. And I didn't notice it right away because at the time I'm trying to make it to my destination. I got my children with me. I'm trying to make sure I gotta get to my homegirl. So I'm on a mission. Now, I should have noticed at the time because every thought that was coming in my head was showing up, but I was distracted. So I was driving, and eventually I hit beautiful Bahia. Many of you know I have a beautiful place. I love Bahia. I have my wonderful secret little town that I love, and I enjoy the amenities. I have friends that are like family to us. They love my family, love my children, and I love going there. It's like going back home. My children feel like every time we go, it's like going home. We reach there. And then I become aware that my thoughts are now producing a full stream of energetic wavelength that is higher than it was before. Now it produces the manifestation within moments of my thoughts. And because I become aware of that, now I begin to isolate the thoughts so that I'm refraining from triggering things that aren't in alignment, because just like the things that I wanted, I was triggering thoughts that I didn't want. Okay, because it was that's how fast it was. Okay. Oh, Jeannie nodded her head. No, but Bewitched went like this. Bewitched was like this. What did she do? She like two women that were into manifestation, right? That were otherworldly. So as I figured out that I was manifesting these things into reality. I remember I had just left, when I went to Sao Paulo, I had just left Argentina in the middle of the snow, beautiful. Went to Brazil and Sao Paulo, stayed in Liberdade, which we loved, and drove myself to Bahia, and noticed that whatever happens with all of the exposure to geometrical photon frequencies that were outside of things that I would ever be exposed to without technology dampening and darkening and capping it, I literally had my technology turn on fully. Okay. And I should have known that Chile was the beginning, because with Chile, because I went so far south, I no longer was under the constant bombardment of northern hemispheric interference with the 5G. Even though they have 5G, they have towers in Chile, I hadn't seen a bombardment of craziness, even in the big city of Santiago, where I was staying in a building which was beautiful, in an apartment. I hadn't ever felt like stinging in my phone. You know, when you have your phone, sometimes you get stinging, like stinging in your phone, hot phones. I hadn't ever experienced that. I didn't experience headaches that normally I would get in cities. That was all gone. The tummy problems that I experienced in the United States, that literally was becoming an issue, was gone within 48 hours. My technology of my body, your biosphere is a technology. And if we aren't harming it and dampening it with like bad food, bad company, putting like Cucaracha kill shots in us, putting tattoos all over our body, imprinting that black goo and blocking certain ways of frequencies to be able to be accessible, putting devices in our body, you know, boobies, fake boob, you know, artificial things in your body, your butt, your, you know, things, Botox. If those aren't things you're doing regularly, your technology doesn't have as many hampering, other than outer perimeters that your government could be doing with using technology like scalar technology that they're using constantly to keep you at a certain level so that you aren't able to spike or access certain information outside of what they want you to. Okay? You guys with me? I hope I'm not going over the top. Am I talking too much? Let me know. Anyone let me know if you feel like I'm, because I talk fast, so I want to know that you're kind of, you know, I don't want to share this with you if it's not in alignment with me sharing, if you don't want to, if you don't feel in alignment with it. I at least want to be in accord with you guys. Okay. So as I'm coming back, I realized that now I have something that is able, and I talked to the zombies on it. I thought it was some sort of manifestation thing, but later on I find out it's not so much manifestation. It's a technology that we have in us. It's what allows our thoughts to proactively change our reality immediately. Probably with all the shots and things they give you as a child and all the bombardment of social engineering and all the wars and people dying, it messes with your ability to access that kind of ability because it caps you. So now I'm now driving back from Bahia. We enjoyed ourselves. Beautiful. I learned to do the foho. Did you guys know the foho? I learned to dance the foho. My children did too. We have some great, amazing dancers, which were friends of my girlfriend. She had some friends who were dancing in the foho. I'm wondering if any Brazilians, you know, to do the foho, because I know all these Latin dances. I never heard of the foho. Totally different. I loved it. My mother says it's the mambo, which is interesting because my mother saw the dance with my daughter doing it, and she said, "Oh, that's the mambo." Anyway, that's a side thing. It was a dance that I know the music of Brazil. It's a certain sound, but I didn't know the dance, and it was beautiful listening to it and doing it. The foho. Anybody? I just wondered if anybody ever learned this dance. But my mom says it's the mambo, so I guess back in the days it may have been called something different. Anyway, I just wanted to add that. Okay. So coming back, driving back from Bahia, going back into the terrain, I was experiencing like photonic light frequencies in my head. Now, you got to wonder, because you say to yourself, if this is happening, if the body is if it's being overloaded, which wasn't happening, but at the time I was like, is this coming in too much? Maybe it's so much information, or maybe I've changed. It's a folklore dance. Thank you for that. Thank you for that, Rose. I didn't know that. I love it. I love it. So it's very masculine, being led by a man. Just like, it's very grounding. I really enjoyed it, that dance. So I started to get like lights, and like, you know, when you close your eyes, you ever close your eyes and sometimes you see these little lights? But when I would close my eyes, I would get like lights, different spectrums of light coming in. Like I would close my eyes like this, and I was getting like purple and pink, and it was mostly in those two colors that it was kind of shooting in my head. And at first, you know, because I worked in genetics and heredity, and also worked with a lot of neuroscientists and neurological doctors, I always made sure I had to be careful, because that also could be a health condition. You know what I mean? You got to make sure you aren't having a stroke. It could be some sort of something going on with the brain. Okay, so I had to kind of like do the check mark to make sure I was healthy. My limbs feel okay? Any tingling on either side? In my face, everything okay? Do I feel my tongue? Are my eyes, am I seeing properly? Am I getting any ringing in the ears? You know, I just do the check, and I do this kind of check just to kind of keep everything on the up and up, because you want to make sure that things that you're experiencing aren't based on health conditions that can come with it. Okay. And I'm very Sagittarius like that. Like I always like to verify things. That's why when I share these things with you, y'all, all this stuff is literally things that I vet out with myself. So I'm getting lights, like purple and pink lights when I close my eyes. And it's not all the time, but it's like shooting purple and pink lights. And I'm thinking to myself, okay, I'm getting these light spectrums, and it's generally in the higher frequency, because pink is the highest cosmic frequency, and purple is high, you know, high in the tier, the violets, you know what I mean? So I'm getting those light frequencies, and I'm traveling back. And I noticed that, because the Zoomies knew about this, but I should have mentioned this, because right before we reached Sao Paulo, the car broke down, but it was an electrical breakdown, meaning this poor car, y'all. Brazil has terrain, though, is buck wild, and driving in Brazil is like driving through Frogger. You know, it's wild. That's why I say you gotta. Not everybody should drive through Brazil, but I'm just saying it was buck wild. So the car, I didn't. Hindsight is 2020. I realized the car had only turned off. Now, mind you, I get a call from Melissa telling me that there's electrical issues going on off in the States, that you guys had some sort of electrical disruption. Now, mind you, I just get this. So Melissa tells me, I think An told me too, hey, there's like this craziness. They grounded all the flights, anything happening in Brazil and so on. I was like, nothing's happening here. I said, all the flights are a go. Argentina's a fine. Everything in South America is a go. They aren't experiencing that. And she was like, check. So I checked. Everything was great. So I just, you know, we talked about it and so on. But then when I'm driving, 2 hours before we get to our target, which is Sao Paulo, to go back because I got to fly out, 2 hours before, remember the light frequency I'm talking about, the purple and pink light has shot through my head like maybe an hour before. Then I stopped for a minute, and then my whole dash on my car is totally like zoned out, like aliens, and the car wouldn't start. Now, in my rational mind, I'm saying to myself, oh, I probably just drove too much. Maybe it's the car, but it's a new car. It's a new rental car. There's nothing wrong with it. But in my mind, I was like, okay, maybe I drove too crazy. And now I got to figure out how to get them to tow me 2 hours out of the city, because I'm 2 hours out of Sao Paulo. I'm not even in Sao Paulo. And then try to get us safe, because we got mad luggage in the car. Okay. So I'm not able to be rational then, because I'm in mommy mode, because I got babies with me, you know, my children with me. Those are my babies. And I'm driving this way. I got to make sure that I get us to a point. My proficiency with Portuguese is pretty good. But remember, explaining everything in Portuguese when you still have a limitation of expressing certain things, I got to take time and saying things in Portuguese to be able to convey that. You got to come get me, and you got to tow the car, and you got to tow us back. Okay. So needless to say, we got back perfectly fine. Okay. There was some glitches in that craziness, but I had to realize after the fact that with that light frequency, I think I did something with my flux capacitor, which I think was totally activated with the car. And I've talked about, many of you heard me having contact with so-called aliens and the others from, from the other galactic spaces, that a lot of times when we had contact, the batteries in the car would die. And we talked about this a couple times. I talked about it years before. I had been out with my birthday with my friend. We were out and we lost time. We don't know how we got to, my man's place. And we had no clue. He thought we just showed up. We lost 2 hours to 2 hours and something minutes. The place was only 15 minutes away. We were supposed to meet up with the guys. And both of our phones, her phone blew up and mine died. My battery died. And the car was fine, but everything else blew up. There were other times when the car battery would die out of the blue when you have contact, any form of contact where they come around. So there's always some sort of disruption. If there's electromagnetic frequency, that pulse wave that comes in, that's not ordinary. And I liken to this purple and pink light as now, after the fact, me being exposed and my technology, my flux capacitor in my body turning on and literally, oh, sorry. I have company. Literally turning on. Okay. And disrupting my batteries. Okay. So needless to say, started to travel back. Many of you know, big up to the zombies. They were kind of on with me while I flew. I love that they kept me company some of the way. I had to drive, I had to come through. I flew from Brazil, went into Colombia, and then went into Mexico. Okay. That was my route and so on. But what I noticed is that when I came back home, is that normally when you come back home, you have access to only your dome's criteria, environment. Oh, Bridget, stop, Fleur Brun. I'm one of your regulars, but not so regular listeners, and want to show you some love and graduate to you for sharing your beautiful insight on us. Oh, thank you, Bridget. Thank you, Mama. I appreciate it. Yeah, the phone in New Orleans did the same, right, Selma, when we were at the conference. So, you want me to sing? I'm not a singer. I can't sing. You hear me sing, it's not going to be, it's going to be a frog. So what happened is that when I came back, I assumed that when I came back that I would access my regular terrain. And I am now accessing all of the different realms that I didn't even have access to before. And this is now going on another day. And I realized that my flux capacitor has now activated and I now have access outside the domes. I have access to all of the domes I cross simultaneously. And makes me think that there's some sort of translucency. Remember, it's plasma. The more petrified the dome is, the more petrified the plasma is. When you become faster in speed, it melts the plasma. Plasma becomes more permissible, more permeable. But I realized that my flux capacitor has literally turned on, and I'm going to talk about some of the things that goes along with what are some of the criteria of a type of, according to the movie, what is needed in the flux capacitor. So in the movie, if many of you watch with Michael J. Fox in any one of the movies that you watch with Doc. Doc is the scientist that created the traveling car, which you'll see in a lot of, back in the days, you go to Universal. Can you see me? Y'all put a 13 or you guys can't see me, can you? Oh my God, this is crazy. Can you guys see me? You can. Oh my God, that was so freaky. Y'all, I don't know what happened. I saw a flash with like an image and I don't know what it was. And then all of a sudden the phone said, and just would not turn back on. The battery's fine. I got 68%. Yo, that's buck wild. Okay, you guys can see me now. Okay. Holy crap. When I said plutonium, is it when I said plutonium they did that? I think it's when I said plutonium, y'all. I think it is. Okay. So, okay, I'm going to continue because I don't want it to do it again. Okay, just let me know because the only way, okay. All right. So, in the movie Back to the Future with Michael J. Fox, um, he was the young man. He was like friends with like a really weirdo scientific guy, like an old mad scientist that's always doing experiments in his garage or what have you in his barn. So he had created a car that ran on plutonium, but it was with a flux capacitor on it. Okay, and the plutonium was the metal. Now he was, there were like terrorists chasing them because he was stealing plutonium from like terrorist cells. I don't know. I don't know if you guys remember. Remember he was the doc was like running away from, and they ended up. I don't want to tell you the movie because if you haven't seen it, but you remember that. Can you guys hear me? Okay. It's a really good movie, and why I say it's good for you to watch it. It's weird. It's really doing some weirdness. Okay. It's a really good movie. And you can watch it with your children too. This is one of the movies that's kind of fun to watch with your little ones, okay? Because me and their dad watch with our little ones. And they love it. They love it. They love the movie. Okay, so plutonium is needed. So he would have to get plutonium and he would steal it from like terrorist cells or try to do exchange, okay? And plutonium metal is kind of like silver, but when it's exposed to oxygen, it turns to like a yellow or olive green. I don't know if that matters, but I just kind of looked that up. And on this, which I think is very interesting, because why I bring up the Trump thing also is that Trump represents 8, right? He's always represented by 8. I forgot why he's does anyone know why he's yeah, he stole it from the Russians. Thank you, Scotty. Scotty, remember, he stole the plutonium from the Russians. Scotty, you're so right. Okay. But do you remember why Trump is represented by 88? I don't remember, but in order for this time machine to work, they had to go 88 miles per hour for the flux capacitor to work. Did you hear me? They had to go 88 miles per hour for the flux capacitor to work. I think it's kind of interesting because as my technology started to work, the flux capacitor, it's interesting that Trump is like being pushed out and he was almost assassinated and all of these false flags are happening. Like, I feel like his representation is the Trump Towers. Remember, we talked about, I told you he's a Trojan horse. Okay. That he is literally resonating at that 88 frequency. And that is the frequency required for the flux capacitor to work. Because we think it's miles per hour, but it's a frequency thing. It's a resonance thing. So his being pushed out, he is the representation of the 88. That's what I think. Because when I saw it, I was kind of like weirded out. I was like, why is that? Why am I having access to this technology in me, which I liken to be the flux capacitor, and Trump is representing that 88, right? I think, y'all. I hope I'm right, right? And then because, okay, so they say that the 88 miles per hour was for them to achieve temporal displacement. Now, temporal displacement is for your body for everything to departicleize and like shatter out into the like quantum detangle, like for the quantum field to to departicleize. That's the quantum. That's the temporal displacement, like to departicleize. You ever see like on Star Trek? He's like, Scotty, beam me up. And like they beam them up. They always triangulate them to find out their location. And then once they lock on them, they beam them up and they departicleize. And then they're particleized back. They become particleized back on the ship. Okay. And Biff looks like Trump. That's another residue resonating with Trump. Because remember, they talked about when it came back in the past again, Biff had become remember he had an old, Casino, and he was running the town, Biff, and he was always likened to be Trump. Very good remembrance. So the 88 miles per hour was how we were able to achieve temporal displacement. What I said is that when I came back to the United States, I noticed that there isn't any more localizing to my dome. I am accessing outside of my dome and in multiple domes I'd not even accessed. Listen, I'm getting beings that I think are outside, somewhere outside the firmament, outside the firmament. Like I saw a being that was native. They were tall, and he had this woman. She looked almost like one of those native Aztecian women. Her hair was very straight, very Asiatic looking, dark. She had like the thing on her nose, like the sign on her nose, and they were big. They weren't small. And he had her in like a wooden kind of like pen. I know it's crazy, but I'm just saying I'm seeing beings that I hadn't had access to. And when I was traveling through Mexico, also, I feel like I was accessing beings that were existing not only outside into those domes, but in other time space continuums. Like these were I was accessing different times. Like it wasn't in 2024, 2016, 2012. No, these were times that were like maybe way before, where maybe the last 3 cataclysms existed. I just was seeing beings that were from different times. And I was wondering why I'm getting access to this, but because of the 88, which represents Trump, and me traveling and getting activated, my technology, this flux capacitor in me being activated, it literally was being turned on, and now the domes are now permeable. Plasma isn't petrified anymore. I'm able to go inside the different domes, and I don't even know if I'm in domes anymore, but the beings inside are literally from other time frames. That's how I knew it was a flux capacitor. That's why I likened it. I'm not saying, when I'm using that, I'm just using the term because I'm likening to that. Okay? It's not, I'm not using it as like definitive or concrete. I'm using it as I'm getting ringing. Hold on, y'all. I'm getting a message in this ear. Hold on. There's weird things happening on this. Maybe because I'm talking about it. It's very strange. It's in my ear now. Okay. All right, it's gone. So I would love your opinions, because remember, this is just stuff I'm kind of getting as I'm going on. Okay. And then, so the plutonium is important because I had to look up, I was like, okay, so the flux capacitor ran on the plutonium, but I was like, how could my body be likened to the flux capacitor? Where is the plutonium? Do we have plutonium in us? But apparently we do. And the large portion of plutonium in the body of adults is in the bone or in the liver. Listen to what I say. The large portion of plutonium, the little bit that we have in our body, is in adults. It's in the bone and it's in the liver. Plutonium is deposited mainly in the liver and the skeletal. I thought that was interesting. And then it's calculated in the body. Now, this is what's bugged out, because remember we did the whole P. Diddy, like remember the whole Sean Combs, they were showing his huge mansion in Florida and Miami, and then it kept showing this one thing with the 4 X's. Remember? I was showing you the 4 X's. I was like, that's represented as X. And then you see X and Twitter, all these X's represented it. It's interesting because with this calculation of the plutonium, it shows up as 10.3, 10 to the 3rd power, in between 10 to the 5th power, which is atoms. So what is 10 to the 3rd? What's in between 10 to the 3rd and 10 to the 5th? It's 10 to the 4th power. Now, I don't know if that matters, but the first thing I thought when I saw this, look, I can't make this up. See? Okay. Because I wrote it down. I took it down. And I wrote it down. It has been calculated that the human body always carries a base load of plutonium, 10 to the 3rd, they would split the minus, to 10 to the 5th. And I thought it was kind of interesting that would be 10 to the 4th. Like, could that be why they always have that X showing up? And when P. Diddy, they kept focusing on the 4 X's. Okay? And the 4x's is the 4. Remember the 44,000, the 4,000, the 4 is always represented as that. I don't know. Just let me know if you think, okay? So I would love to know your opinions because I'm kind of drawing stories and I'm coming on with you where I haven't fully definitively broke things down. It's just like I'm brainstorming as I talked to you right before I came here. Okay? So the capacitor, now I looked and said, okay, so why is the capacitor that they show us? Oh, where is it? Oh, I didn't show it. Okay, you see it on my pin. It looks like a Y. Okay? So I'm saying, okay, if I'm looking at these X's and it's represented by X, would the capacitor only have an X? So would it only have a Y looking thing or would it have an X? I just asked the question. And then when I'm looking, I found out the capacitors connected line to line are X's. Capacitors, also called line to neutral, which we always talk about the 0 point, right? Capacitors. Those connected from the line to line are called, those connected to line to the ground are called Y capacitors. Y capacitors, okay? And also referred to line bypass capacitors. X capacitors are used for differential mode EMI filtering. Now, I know this doesn't matter. Some of you guys, I know the sun stars in here, you're way more into the capacitors. You probably know this language more than I, maybe engineers, maybe those into like mechanical things. I would love to hear your opinion as far as what you think that is. Because I kind of just took it down. It says safety capacitor standards because a shorted Y capacitor could lead to the danger of an electrical shock. Y capacitors are held to a higher operating standard compared with X capacitors. During the certification process, 2 keys tests performed are the impulse and endurance tests. These are done, I'm sorry, y'all, I'm reading really slow. These are done to verify that the XY capacitor can withstand 10 impulses of alternations. Listen what I said, 10. That's again the X, 10 impulses of alternated polarities. I don't know, guys, sun stars, you're better in this. I don't know if any sea stars, you're really kind of qualified to speak on this. I just thought I'd take those notes down to talk about that. Because why would they name capacitors after the very thing that makes us men and women? And then kind of liken it to how they're able to activate it. And what one is line to line, which is the X, and one is line to ground, which is the Y. I don't know if you guys can kind of break that down. I don't know. I would love your opinion. This is something I'm not vetted in. I can't qualify it, but I just wanted to take that down. We can short out as an electrical shortage, and higher frequency needs to have correct weights so not to blow lights or within. So interesting how seems to all apply. Thank you, KD. That makes sense. Interesting. Yeah, I think it's very important that it came up for a reason, and I think we have to pay attention to that. All right. So all this to say, and I'm not going to go too long on this. I would love to hear your opinions. And again, I wanted to share this with you because if I'm qualifying jumping domes as me accessing different frequency and vibrational qualifying energetics, right, that are influencing me and activating, there's something that happened when I was exposed to different visual geometrical shapes that were beyond my natural perceptional view just in my ordinary life, and then the photonic lights that came along with it, which I think Joel Brookman talked about that as well. Because when we project our reality with our thoughts, wavelengths of our thoughts, we create the photonic lights that express things, bounce, our reality back to us. Okay. But what I did by jumping domes too quickly, fast, and doing it in ways that are not normal, and I was in alignment with it. Remember, I'm a contactee. I come from a certain background. But there is something that happened to me within that time frame that unlocked my technology. And now I have access to beings, energetic beings, domes beyond the United Fakes. So I don't know how this is going to show up. I don't know what kind of, I haven't really socialized much since I've been back in the States, and I won't be back in the States that long. I got to go back outside the country for a little bit, but I don't know what I'm going to experience. Like, does this mean that not only are the beings that are in the astral planes or in my dreamscape that I'm seeing that aren't from here, am I going to start to experience different types of beings out in the residue of my personal life? Like, I haven't really socialized much other than, you know, my personal family. The flux capacitor literally activated, and now it's permeated the different domes into like a plasma, and all these things are bleeding into my reality. Anyway, I thought I'd share it with you. I know it's a nerdy conversation. It's a really nerdy conversation, but many of you know me as a bit of a geek. So I would love all my science geeky people to kind of like add on, like, let me know what's going on. Like, give me an idea of what you think this is or what it means. Like, I'm open and receptive to your opinions, and like, especially our sun stars, you're way more qualified a lot of this, like, especially mechanics. It'd be interesting to know how this is, how it relates to the 88 or the 88881624 strand activation, huge mind thing. Have you jumped through the holes? Well, Kate, I really feel like because I'm going in, like I'm quantum leaping, because I went so quickly through these different domes and I was activated. And also the Pequins in Argentina contacted me, and that came with the whole wall opening. I talked about that. There was so many things that happened in the south of South America. It was mind blowing. And I always usually stay in the north. I generally don't go so far south. But I was trying to contact the woman. Remember I told you I was trying to contact the Antarctica Afro woman? That's Antarctica looks like the woman with the Afro. I was trying to contact her. She never contacted me. But I was contacted by Ossian, an Orisha, which I don't really get down with Orisha, Ossian, and then he told me where to go, and then the penguins talked to me. Penguins. I hope I pronounced it correctly. So it was interesting, and then I had a level contact on Tuesday before I left Bahia, but that was more personalized. Like certain things, I wouldn't say it was like telepathic and vision-based, but remember the beings there, they told me they would contact me on Tuesday. That's a whole nother conversation because it's so personal. I don't really share that. But I had contact with the beings I'm always in contact with in Bahia. But they told me something would happen on Tuesday, and it did. And the Ossian came up. Ossian is a nature-based Orisha male that I've never known about. And he was the one who called me to a specific place in South America. I didn't even know to go there. He was the one who told me to go there. And it's interesting. I was expecting to get information from the Antarctica, woman, but I got contact with them. So maybe it was them I was supposed to speak to or be in contact with. Maybe they were the ones I was supposed to be in contact with because of Ossian. You guys can look up the Orisha. I didn't know him. And then my girlfriend's mom had a huge statue of Ossian in her house, which I did. Like I said, it's very surreal when you get these wonderful, amazing things that occur. Because, I talk about the Orishas, like, what did the Orishas do for you? What did your Orishas do? I was talking mad smack about the Orishas. But a Orisha contacted me and told me the location, y'all, down to the place that I went. I don't talk about it because I don't want to bring too much heat to the place, but the Zombies knew about it. And I told the Zombies that the Ossian contacted me to go to this one specific place. And I thought I would get in contact with that Afrocentric queen. And I didn't. It was those little elf beings. And they were really quite amusing. They were like, does she know? Does she know? Does she know? Does she know? It was really interesting. I've never heard anything like that in my life. And I'm mentally healthy, y'all. Let me put my little FYI there. I do 0 drugs. I haven't done any drugs. I do 0 mushrooms, ayahuasca, all this stuff. I haven't had to do anything like that to ever have contact. I have very clean, connective contact with beings. Always. From a little girl. You can hear it from my mom. My mom has such stories to tell from when I was a baby. Okay? So it's totally different. And this has been ongoing since a child, since a baby. But the contact is different now, like as an adult woman. and it's starting to become more and more tangible. It's less, before it was kind of like I would get contact and it would show up in physical realms, but it would be random. Now it's purposeful, and I will always be led to the exact place. Like everything is like timed, like everything's more tangible. Okay, it's very interesting. But I'm healthy. I'm psychologically well. Listen, y'all. I always tell people, oh, she's the guy who said I'm schizophrenic. There isn't anybody schizophrenic who could go and travel to 5 countries with their children safely, honorably, sanely, talk to people. I'm rational. Sorry, I have stuff on my lips. I'm rational. Okay, I'm drug-free, alcohol-free. You know what I mean? I'm not having any kind of crazy diabolical sex, at least not yet. That's another conversation. I'm going to share that tonight with the zombies. There's something else that happened, but I can't tell you guys here online because it's too much, you know. And there might be children. I got to be careful what I share. It's very interesting. But you can kind of guess, right? I'm not going to leave you standing, but you could kind of guess. There's something else that happened. And it's he said, we grown. And it's happened again, like when I came back. Yeah. I don't know. It wasn't anything that happened to me before. I haven't ever had that kind of interaction ever, physically. So it makes me think, and also, without being too graphic, I talked about us being, for some of us, I don't want to say me personally, I'm in some sort of cryo state. I've seen myself get out. I've gotten out of the cryo state. I'm in some sort of cryo state where I'm in. Many of you are there too, but I can't assume it's everybody because some people are NPCs. We don't even know who's real. Some of you could be reptiles. I don't know everybody. I'm just saying for the majority of people that I know, we're in a cryo state and we're kept there and we're having this simulated experience of a simulated Earth. We wake up in different layers and levels, kind of like Inception, okay? But in it itself, when I woke up last time outside the dome, not the dome, my cryo state, I woke up naked and I was in a room. I wasn't in a big spaceman, like my cryo bed was inside of a room that I'm familiar with, which is my room. And I talk about that all the time. And there was a male lying next to me with he had stuff all over the side lying next to, I could tell he was lying next to my pod. And when I woke up, I realized when I looked at him, every single male that I've ever been attracted to looks like him. I don't want to bug you out because this is going into the quantum entanglement field. So every man, I have a very specific type. Some of you who know me personally, you already know what it is because you saw my type. But I have such a chronic type, it doesn't even make sense. I don't know where the type came from. But when I woke up out of the cryo state and I saw the man that was lying next to my cryo bed, he was the man that I have always picked. His phenotype is what I'm picking out in this simulation in every single scenario. Every single scenario. So I realized, oh my God, this is my partner. But partnership is not what you think either, because there's something else to it too. And I talked about that there was a woman next to me. Her pod had been moved. So personally, I don't want, because this is a long story. I didn't tell some of you know it already. I don't want to linger too long, but the pods, there was apparently a flood and some pods were destroyed. And what I liken is that my pod and this other young lady's pods, they were moved into a specific space, like a personal space, my room, where they were to be monitored. And one of my partners, which is the male that is the male of my dreams, apparently, because this is the reason why I'm picking all the same males in this firmament, in this simulation. He was watching out and he was sleeping. You could tell he'd been sleeping there for days, maybe worried. Okay. And the young lady that was with me, we wake up naked. We're inside of the pods, butt naked. Okay. I look very similar, just smaller, more fit. I'm not busty. So it looks like in this simulation, the things that I wanted to make about myself, I have more of an athletic build. And I personally think, I don't know this, but when I kind of woke up from the pod, I don't think about it because it's not something that's relative there. But I realized that I made myself look into more of what I want, like more busty, more voluptuous looking. Like, I'm sorry. I made myself visually in this simulation look more of the things I wanted to expand on, because in that world I look very similar, just same facial features, same complexion, kind of hair. My hair is similar, but my body is more not muscular, more like athletic. I don't have these big round do you understand what I mean? I don't want to be graphic. You understand, right? So I chose an avatar that's more expounded on probably something I thought I lacked. Okay. So in this realm, I look like, but when I woke up in that realm, we were naked. And I think I told you before that when I woke up with one of the women, she looked like a woman, but she had a penis. And it kind of messed me up a little bit. I'm sorry, y'all. She looked just like a girl, but she had a penis. And in that world, I don't know that I was shocked, but I did look and I felt a little vulnerable being naked. It's weird. I had my body parts. I had a yoni, I could tell. And she was female. She was very petite, just a lunar looking female, very petite, but she had a male apparatus. And when we put clothes on, we just took this little bit of like a clay thing, a little thing, and put it on like here, and it created clothing all over us. It literally melded clothing on our entire body, like a uniform. So it was like a little piece of like, I don't know, like clay or something. It felt like clay, and we just put it on here, and it literally created clothing on our entire body. Okay. I think I told you guys about that before. But yeah, I don't know. And makes me also think, is that why they're generating all this trans stuff? Is it because of that over there? Because that exists? Like, I don't know. I can't tell you. Why I mention this is because I personally know I'm in a cryo state and I'm living in this thing, and we are underneath water. Where it comes some sort of like, I would say almost like the ship is like a Nebuchadnezzar. You know how in Matrix, the Nebuchadnezzar was in the bowels of the sewers? We're in a ship. That's why I think that whole thing of the simulation, we project these things, and these are the truth of where we are. We're under the water. We're in some sort of like, our ship looks almost like it's got terrain in there and grass and terraformed to be inside that looks, like, how you have grass and so on, but it looks almost like a submarine. So the Nebuchadnezzar, the first time I saw the Nebuchadnezzar, not the Nebuchadnezzar, or the thing that was underneath, right? Underneath the like an ark, yeah, underneath the city when they had the Matrix, it was so familiar to me. But we're living in this simulated. I don't know why I'm allowed to wake up every once in a while from my cryo state. It only happened a few times, and it's not long. It's a very short period of time, but I go to sleep and I'm just back in. But I feel like why I share this with you is because the male who I'm attached to, there's two people I'm attached to, but the male I'm attached to